Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session with Ronald. Oh, where's my notes here? Ronald BREEVELD, Senior Retail and CPG Director, Business Advisor for the SAS Institute in France. So, the topic of discussion for today is most executives agree that the ability to generate an accurate forecast has a significant impact on long-term business success. Demand planning provides the opportunity to achieve top-line revenue and bottom-line profit. So it stands to reason that companies will prioritize initiatives that will improve demand planning capabilities such as artificial intelligence and machine learning. To achieve an effective demand plan, collaboration is key. Collaborative planning with alignment from all departments, including marketing, sales, supply chain, and finance, the one number principle, and also between data scientists and data demand planners, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied, who must work hand in hand to ensure they acquire maximum benefit from predictive analytics and machine learning. That was a big mouthful for me, but I think it's a really, really relevant topic. And speaking of collaboration is king these days. We all need to be doing it. So, Ronald, please, warm welcome to you, and we all look forward to your presentation. So, take it away for us.
If the floor is mine, okay. Thank you, Tanya. I'm going to share my screen. Is it okay? You'll see it? You see my screen? You see my screen, Tanya?
I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes. So let me please start to introduce SAS. SAS is the world's leader in analytics, a company who's been started 45 years ago, helping customers around the world to transform data into intelligence. I've been working here for 2 years, and I made the essential part of my career in analytics and in supply chain in the major CPG companies. So, first of all, a little bit of context. We had in the last decade, in the last century, we had the industrial evolution, and this one gave us strength, it gave us speed, and now since 10-20 years, we are in the revolution of the artificial intelligence. And some examples that we see here in the middle is autonomous cars. Companies like Waymo and Tesla have been doing quite some interesting jobs over there. We have radiological diagnosis for radiologists who help to improve the diagnosis of cancers, for example. We have speech to text, which seemed to be completely impossible to do in the 80s when we were all watching Star Trek, and which is now working on our smartphones. Now, what does this mean for demand planning? One of the big questions is, will artificial intelligence take over and replace the demand planner? What we think it will not. We think that thanks to the predictive analytics, we will create what I call the augmented demand planner. The demand planner will be able, with the same amount of time, to create, first of all, better forecast, higher quality, so be more precise in the predictions. Secondly, you'll be able to do it more detailed way. More detailed meaning, first you start, for example, on SKU level. Then you can go down to SKU customer level, or even go down from a monthly level to weekly level. And thirdly, it will be possible to update the forecast more frequently. So, for example, so often we're in a monthly cycle, and thanks to machine learning and predictive analytics, we'll be able to update the forecast on a weekly level, or maybe even more frequently for certain businesses. So, just before starting, I wanted to present you the roadmap of the demand planning maturity in supply chain in 5 steps. Generally, companies have started with what I call naive planning. Naive planning means that each and every department starts to do their own planning. Finance, for example, for organic growth or real internal growth. sales for volumes per customer on a yearly level, supply chain for production quantities and such. And very often they are based on the same information, but there's no alignment in the beginning between those departments, or if there is one, it's on a very high level. The planning as such is very often on a high level because it's complicated to do. And if it's not on a high level, then often we only take some representative customers, for example, and the planning as such is then incomplete. The techniques we use are very simple planning techniques like moving averages, tendencies, and in the tools, it's Excel based very often, or the likes. Then we start in the second step to get what I call collaborative planning. When I mean the word collaborative, it's internal to the company. So that means that the different departments are working together in order to produce what I call the one number principle. So that means that you create a company-wide outlook of the forecast that is then used and shared by everybody. It's then on a detailed level, so SKU level, and it's exhaustive. It's not only partial. And we start using basic predictive analytics for this. And often it's ERP based, like, for example, SAP APO with a demand planning DP solution, for example. Then the third step, we introduce statistics. So we start creating a team of data scientists that are using dedicated predictive analytics that can be open source, it can be more mature solutions. We start really going down to a more detailed level. Again, it's on a SKU customer level very often. And we start using some very basic data science technique that go further than the step before, which was just predictive analytics. The fourth step would be demand modeling. So here we start taking into account external data, syndicated data from ERI or from Nielsen, for example, macroeconomic data, Google Analytics, things like that. We go to the most detailed level. We start to do demand sensing, meaning start to use those external data on the short term in order to plan the very, very short-term activities like truck loading, like end-of-month landings and things like that. And we also start to do demand shaping, meaning that we start to analyze what if we create a promotion, would we reach our targets and things like that. We start using here advanced data science techniques, and the size of the team of the data science team is bigger. And the last one, it's the holy grail that not many companies have reached so far. It would be real-time continuous planning with constantly evolving data, so using social media very often. It would be prescriptive, meaning we're not saying this we're going to do, what will be the outlook. No, this is what we want to reach as a target, so what should we do? Lots of what-if scenarios, simulations, and everything. And the data science techniques are best in class, machine learning, artificial intelligence, etc. Most of the companies today are somewhere between step 2 and step 3. When I see most of the companies are most of the medium or big size companies. And the topics I wanted to address here are in these 2 steps. The first one is the one number principle. What does it mean for the collaboration within the company? And secondly, statistical forecasting, when we put this into place with data scientists, what does it mean for the collaboration between the data scientists and the rest of the company? So about the one number principle. As I explained, we start from a situation in which each and every department creates its own forecast. They do it based on the information they have on their side, or the information that they eventually gather through meetings from the other departments, and they create it for having an outlook the way they want it to. Sales wants to outlook on volumes that they think they will sell for each and every customer. Supply chain is interested on SKU level, and they're interested to know exactly for each and every SKU what they will sell. And finance does it to have the turnover and real turn growth, organic growth, and things alike. The point is that sales, for example, they are not that interested in knowing whether it's product A or product B within the category they're selling, as long as they sell it. Whereas the supply chain is very much interested in the SKU level, but they don't really care to whom they're selling it. They want the total volumes. And finance is also more interested in aggregated level and more interested in the margin that the products have, rather than the precise SKU we're selling. So the interesting part is that each and every department has information that's interesting for the others. Sales has information about the customers, whether we are agreeing on new sales, whether the customers are opening stores or not, or whether we are going to have promotions, no promotions, etc. Supply chain has information about supply chain issues, about production issues, about transportation issues that might affect the deliveries and the sales. And finance also has some more high-level interesting information about competitors, about market trends, and of course financial information. So the idea is when you go into the one number principle, that there's one leader of this process who is putting into place a procedure, meetings of alignment with all these different people, in which each and every one provides the input together with the forecast that the supply chain has been making, and to align all together on one number, which would be on the most detailed level possible, that would allow each and every person to have the vision he or she wants. And then afterwards, based on this detailed vision, each and every department gets the outlook they want. It has multiple advantages. First of all, the quality of the forecast would be much higher because you are sure that each and every person has given the input. And secondly, as there's one professional person who is occupied making this forecast, you are sure that you have the highest quality forecast. The question is very often who should be the orchestra, leading this partition. From my perspective, it should be somebody who is objective. Not each and every department is objective. Sales, for example, when they think they will not reach their targets, they often have difficulties in giving an estimation which is lower than the targets. I think that very often the leader of such a process should be part of the supply chain, because it's the only entity who has two objectives which seem contradictory. The first one is, of course, maximize the service levels. The second one is to have the stocks as low as possible. And what the supply chain is interested in is really the right number. So they would be the right person to do so. And the demand planner, from my perspective, should be part of demand supply planning, should be part of the supply chain. So what does this mean? When we put this into place, this process, it ensures that all the departments, they will share the same outlook. They'll also work in the same direction. And you have a company-wide vision and you have alignment. The point is that each and every department, they have their own ways of looking at the outlook on the information, their targets, the announcements they have to make, etc. So in order to make everybody collaborate, you will really need to perform some important change management in the ways of working. Now, how can this work? First of all, you really need strong internal sponsorship. This sponsorship should come from above the supply chain manager, because the supply chain will be working with all the other departments together. So you need this sponsorship from the CEO. Secondly, you would need a strong and objective supply and operations planning leader. It has to be somebody with a personality who is not easily influenced or easily, not somebody who should just adapt the figures because somebody tells him to. It should be somebody who is really pushing his own vision and the vision of the company as such. And finally, you need to put into place a clear process in which, first of all, each and every stakeholder can contribute, and that in the end produces forecast that corresponds to their requirements and the level of granularity they are looking for. So this is about step 2, putting into place the one number process. Now we're going to go to the step 3, where we introduce data science. So let me first talk about the difference between demand planners and data scientists. Whereas the demand planner already has to discuss with sales, with marketing, with finance, who are already quite some different profiles. The difference is bigger between demand planners and data scientists. Demand planners, they are first of all the part of the business. So they have objective based on the business, market share, turnover, things like that. Whereas a data scientist is often part of another team, and very often I see them being attached to IT. Secondly, the demand planner is operational. He's working in a cycle, either weekly for the fresh business, often it's weekly, and monthly cycles for the ambient businesses. Whereas the data scientist, he is project driven. He is creating projects for improving the quality of the forecast, and when it goes live, it will produce it more or less in an automatized way. So he is project driven instead of operationally. He's not cycle based. The demand planner is a strong personality. He needs to be a strong personality because he needs to negotiate, he needs to convince, he needs to communicate, he needs to listen and negotiate. The data scientist is often more or less a geek kind of person with some strong technical skills. He's curious and he's looking for the intellectual challenge. And in the end, the demand planner is constantly challenged for his or her forecast. The demand planner needs to understand the forecast. When you explain that you're going to do 35 tons and last week you said it would be 40, you need to explain why these 5 tons are withdrawn from the forecast, which event explains this. Data scientist is challenged by KPIs, project deadlines, and he's very much at ease by looking at the forecast as a black box, as long as the result of the forecast has a certain acknowledged quality. So the main challenges between these two personalities are to make them align, prioritize their issues, to collaborate together, communicate together. So in order to do so, what I'm pretty much convinced is that we need something central that makes them align. So let me start with the demand planning. First of all, demand planner will get from the data scientists the new forecast. This new forecast will be analyzed. The demand planner will be looking for the short, midterm changes, what the variations are, what the impact is on the targets and things like that. Then he's going to do the different alignments. First one with sales, about promotions, store openings and closures if you're in the retail business. Eventually products that have been discontinued by certain customers and things like that. We will align with marketing about campaigns, advertisements, events, innovations, new products introductions. You'll align with the supply chain, with logistics, about problems with procurement, problems with production, stockouts, risk of stockouts, and the likes. And then in the end, you will have everybody together a demand review with the input of each and every person, hypothesis, and what I call as a result the famous one number, which will then be compared to the targets with eventual actions if those targets are not met. Now we have a meeting in the middle, which I call the control tower meeting, which is a meeting between data scientists and demand planning. And I'm going to comment this in the end because it's something that's pretty important. It's the key to know how they should work together. So what will the data scientist do? He will take the forecast and the actuals. He'll see what the quality was of the forecast compared to the targets. If the forecast was bad or not good enough, what are the root causes? He will check what the forecast value add was from the demand planner, and if his own forecast was bad and the demand planner had a high added value, he will analyze why this was, etc. Then he will question the status quo, check whether he can improve his models, if there are new external variables to be taken into account. For example, information that a demand planner has that has allowed him to improve the forecast. He will check whether he's able to use this information, to look it up somewhere in the internet, in libraries, whatever, and he will try to improve the quality of his forecast with this. He will test new modeling techniques for new products introduction, segmentation, and in order to improve the quality of his forecast. Again, with this time with a more technical angle. He will do rolling back tests, meaning that he will check if what he found out as being, according to him, an improvement. He will check whether in the past this would indeed have given better forecast or not. And then in the end, if he has found a way to improve the quality with new models, with new variables or whatever, he will industrialize this. That means that he will put it into the production environment and make sure that the new forecast will be generated into account these new techniques. Now, this control tower meeting in the middle, this is something that's pretty important, and it is what I will be detailing in the next slides. So first of all, what are the questions that we are asking? So this meeting is a meeting between demand planner with an S generally, because generally there are several demand planners for 1 or 2 or 3 data scientists, depending on the size of the company. And the demand planner, he wants to know a couple of things. First of all, I had SQs, I had forecasts from these SQs from the data scientists. Is the quality of the forecast still that good as it was before? Because I use this forecast, I adopt it. If it's not good anymore, I want to know and I want to understand why. On the other hand, I have SQs from which I was not confident with the forecast from the data scientist. I took my own hypothesis, but maybe he has improved somewhere. So are there now SQs that have a high enough forecast quality that makes me adopt these? And in the end, it's about the variability. Did I have SQs for which the forecasted quantities changed significantly since the last forecasting cycle? And does it come then, if it does, if you have very big differences, does it come from recent high or low sales? Or did something change in data science level? Stability of the forecast is important for a demand planner because, as I said, the demand planner needs to explain his figures. And if each and every month he comes back saying it's 400 tons, now it's 350, it's 420, etc., he will not. He will have difficulties in explaining each and every month why he's doing it. So he needs to be comfortable with this. The data scientists. He is in another role. He wants to first of all that the quality of his work is really serving the demand planner, and on the other hand, he wants to improve the quality of his work. So one of the biggest questions he's asking himself is, for a certain number of SKUs, the demand planner will be better than he is with his data scientist figures. So he'll ask himself the question, how come the demand planner is beating my forecasts? And what information does he use? And can I use this information then to implement it and test it as causal variables? And which are the SKUs or SKUs for certain customers or SKUs for certain DCs which are underperforming, for which I'm bad, not in line with the forecast security targets? And if I have some well-performing SKUs, have they been adopted by the demand planner? Is he really using them? If he's not using them, why is this? And if he's not using them, and I can show that if he would have used it, he would have had a higher quality forecast, I will try to convince him and explain this to him. And finally, he would be interested in knowing what other type of usage my forecast would have, because the more you go into detail, which is what the data scientist is able to do, and the higher the quality of the forecast becomes, you will see that other departments will be interested in this forecast. Whereas in the beginning, you will only serve production essentially, or import or purchasing. Later on, you will see that also logistical department will be interested for transportation planning, for example, or for distribution center planning. And you will also see that finance will be more interested in your forecast. And this is something that will keep the added value of the data scientists higher and higher. Now, within this control tower meeting, these are the questions that we are asking ourselves. Now, what dashboards are we using? So I just want to present 4 very important KPIs, which this list is not exhaustive, but I think these are some of the key ones. First of all, you will, of course, check for all the SKUs what the forecast accuracy is. Forecast accuracy is the difference between the forecast and the actuals, and it's a percentage. So if I said 80 tons, if I said 100 and it was finally 80 tons, then there's 20% forecast accuracy that's lost, so it's 80%. And the higher the forecast accuracy, the more satisfied I am. We also look at the forecast value added. So if the demand planner is changing the forecast, then I either increase the quality of the forecast, increase the forecast accuracy, or you will decrease it. You can make it worse. If the forecast value add is high, that means that the demand planner improves the forecast quality. If it is low, he will deteriorate it. And it's very important to check where the demand planner has added value, because this will allow the data scientist to improve his figures, and where he's not adding value at all, because that's potential for the demand planner to stop touching the forecast and to adopt it the way it is. Then we have the forecast stability or the instability. These are the differences between the last cycle's forecast volumes and the actual forecasted volumes. So after each planning run, you compare what you had last time together with the outlook what you have this time. If you have high differences, you have to examine them, you have to explain them, and either adopt the new ones or try to improve the model so that it does not have create a yo-yo effect on the forecasts. And the last one is the adoption rate, which is the percentage of SKUs with untouched forecast. These are for the dream, of course, for the data scientists as well as the demand planner, because for the data scientist, it means that the demand planner has full confidence in his forecast. And for the demand planner, it means less work and a higher quality of forecast. So it reflects the confidence the demand planner has in the forecast. So it's important to have these different KPIs who will help you to answer the questions I presented in the slide just before. And you can, of course, complete this with several other KPIs which might be relevant to your own company. So as a conclusion, demand planning maturity, it's not just about high quality forecasting. It's also about the efficiency of the process to produce the forecast. When they say the efficiency, it is certainly the quality of the forecast, but also the time I spent, and am I working on the right topics, and the trust of all the stakeholders in the results. Alignment between all the stakeholders and the different actors is completely crucial to produce this one number, and to have every department of the company commit to it and align the actions behind it. And when you start working with a data science department, you really need this good alignment process between data science and demand planners, because if you want to engage on the roadmap of continuous improvement, this is really key. The point is not really to be good from the start. The point is to start somewhere and to improve continuously. And the process of the infinite game I just presented is one very efficient way to do so. So that's all from my side. Thank you for listening. I think I'm more or less in the time. Are there any questions?
Okay, so there are some questions here. Who would a data scientist typically report to if they are not part of the core demand planning team?
Okay. So the point is the data scientist needs to have a boss who is, first of all, capable of understanding what the work is this person is doing. So he needs to have some technical skills, not the same technical skills like a data scientist has, but he needs to understand where the possibilities are of his work, and where the problems lie and where the drawbacks are. Very often, a demand planner or a demand supply chain planning manager does not have the technical skills to deal with these kinds of capabilities. So very often, what we see is that we have a department like IT whom they are attached to, or departments like digital, for example, but departments that are dealing with lots of figures. In a certain organizations, I've also seen them attached to the financial department. What for me is really important is that it's, first of all, it's a person who understands enough high level of the predictive analytics to be able to deal with those people, and secondly, who's able to bridge with the business to make sure that they're working on the right topics. You're on mute, I think. Sorry.
This mute button is going to kill me. I apologize. I should have it right by now. Do you propose the data science cycle as part of the demand planning process, or a continuous improvement initiative in the background, i.e. a lag activity in the overall demand planning process with the broader S&OP process?
For me, these are two different processes, but they are aligned in the middle, and that's the important part. But they're separate, and for me, it's the difference for me between a roadmap, which is more the data scientist's activity, and the cycle, the operational cycle, which is the demand planner's activity. And the point is that you need to make sure that the roadmap is aligned with the necessity for improvement that the demand planners feel in their business. So that's why this synchronizing point is so important. But for me, it's not part of the S&OP process. It's more a process besides that helps you to improve the quality of your S&OP process, either with the quality of the output, the level of granularity, or the frequency.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. Whoever asked that. While I'm asking the next question, can I please ask you in the discuss tab, please just drop a note if you've got a what do we call them now? Data person, data scientist. If you have one, yes. If you have one in your organization, drop a yes in the chat. I will be very interested to know whether we have such a thing in South Africa at the moment. Okay, so let me carry on with my questions. How do you link supplier production progress to the forecast accuracy?
Sorry, the first one was supplier?
How do you link supplier production progress to the forecast accuracy?
Okay, the production of your supplier or the production of your factory should normally be aligned with the requirements you have, and the requirements that you have are coming from your stock policy, and your demand plan. So it is a kind of cascading process. Now, if the reliability of your demand plan is high, you will give pretty reliable figures to your purchasers and to your suppliers or to your factories, and they will be able to plan without having lots of changes. The point is that changes in the production planning for a supplier or for your own factories are generally quite costly, because you will need more teams, you will need new batches of raw materials or packaging and the likes. So the more reliable your forecast is and the quality of your forecast is, the smoother the production can go, and also in the middle, of course, the lower your stock can be.
Okay, we have some more. What is the capability that SAS offers in the financialization of the demand plan and alignment to the P&L?
Okay. So the demand plan is expressed in the planning units of measure that we use. So often it's tons, but it can also be cases, it can be pallets, depends on what is relevant. Can be liters for the ice cream business, for example. It depends on what's useful for your company. Now, the financial outlook behind this is the translation of those units of measure into financial measures. Those financial measures can be, of course, turnover, it can be profitability, etc. And so you produce your planning, and SAS is offering them the possibility to look at it either from a logistical or supply chain perspective, more based on volumes and logistical units of measure, or from the financial perspective. And then, of course, once you have this financial perspective, you can translate this to any figure of the P&L that's relevant to the quantity of sales that you have. It's what we call integrated planning.
Okay, I have another one here. Is putting is putting into place the one number principle easy when other departments are not willing to collaborate? And I'm going to guess.
Yeah, that's the short answer. Remember, I told about strong sponsorship. It's very, very difficult. I think that generally lots of people are aligned with the idea of having a one number. The question is it the company's number or is it their one number? And that's the difference. If sales says we have one number and it's ours, it's not the same thing than when they say we have one number and it's the company's. So in order to make sure that it is adopted by the company, you need the willingness of all the actors to collaborate. And this willingness can come spontaneously in a certain number of occasions, and it can come from very strong sponsorship. And then you need a CEO who is convinced of this principle and who is also operationally expecting from his teams to collaborate in such a process on one hand and use the results and act according to these results as well. It generally takes 1 year, maybe even 18 months of such a strong character person to put this into place and to make everybody align behind this. Once this has been done, you can the CEO can leave, be replaced by another one, and it can continue to run, because people will need to see it work and to recognize the quality that's coming out of this process before they really believe in it and want to continue with it. But if you do it correctly, it always ends up by people being convinced. So I have no magical answer over here. You need sponsorship.
I think that's the case with everything. You've got to get buy-in from the top, and I think this goes back to the age-old discussion we keep having about, a place at the boardroom table. The supply chain director must be at the boardroom level, which will help us to drive these types of initiatives. It's very interesting that you talk about the type of people or person that should be, the demand planner, the type of personalities that are required to drive these initiatives. And this is not something that people generally talk about. So it's very interesting for me that you talk about somebody that's not, cannot be easily persuaded otherwise or manipulated, but stands firm in their ground and is committed to the end goal based on what they've given. So for me, that's very interesting. And of course, it goes back to the people in the supply chain. But yeah, it's very interesting to talk about a type of personality that's needed to run this demand plan. I have one more question here for you. Is this ML AI technologies currently available in the market that perform some of the core functions of a data scientist, which can be used by demand management teams? Or is a data scientist critical in building these ML models within an organization?
So here we're talking about, is there a possibility that a demand planner or somebody from the demand planning department has a certain expertise in machine learning or artificial intelligence? As I explained, very often these would be the sheep with five legs. They do exist. They're very rare, and if they do exist, then often they leave the company very, very, very quickly. However, it can be interesting to try to do so if the company is small. But as soon as you have, let's say, 3 or 4 demand planners having one or two demand scientists apart and being even physically together, but maybe driven by different hierarchically by different persons, that could be an option. But I've never seen somebody who is both a good demand planner and a good data scientist. They're too different. You need two different really different capabilities in order to go far. But for a start, it could be an option when you're starting in this roadmap. But you'll see that you'll encounter some limited. You'll either have a good demand scientist who understands a little bit the work of the demand planner, but who doesn't have the character, for example, to stand for his figures, doesn't have the sense of communication, things like. Or you'll have a good demand planner who is capable to do some data scientist, but he'll never get out of the technology, the quality of the results that the real data scientist could. So yes for a start, not afterwards.
So I just want to say here that we have somebody that has put up their hand and said yes. They have a very new managed at regional level data scientists. So this is really good stuff that it's happening down here on the ground. So I think based on this presentation, we can try to encourage more of that. I'm going to do this one last question. What software or techniques will a data scientist typically use that a demand planner will not use?
A data scientist, he needs to have, first of all, he needs to have data, of course. He needs to have the actuals. He needs to have the different causal variables, so temperature, promotions, market share, syndicated data, whatever he has. So he would need some tools to manage, to integrate and manage the data. That's the first thing. And then secondly, you would need tools to produce forecasts. So you have open source, you have R, you have Python and everything. And you have, of course, professional software, which has all this integrated in one single layer environment like SAS. And it's not planning software as such. It's the data scientist will not look at the data he's producing the way demand planner does. Demand planner will typically look at the ongoing year. What did I sell last year? What's actual year? What are the actuals? What's my forecast? What's the forecast for next year? He'll compare these, etc. Data scientists, he will look at it like this is the past and this is the future. And it will not look at it the same way. So the demand planner will be using demand planning software, spreadsheets, and the likes, with lots of data in it. Data scientists will look at models, will look at the forecast, it will look at the different causal variables.
Thank you. I think that answers that question. So we are spot on time. We are going to go into a break. But before we do that, please can I ask you to complete the poll in the right side tab so that we can get feedback. It's important for SAPEX as well as our speakers. Do not forget to please go and do some networking and visit the exhibitors. Gosco and Chep have got some competitions going there, and believe you me, you don't want to miss out on those prizes. Ronald, you will be in the SAS booth. Are you going to go to the booth?
I will go there, yes.
Okay, so I'm sure that some of you have got some follow-up questions. So Ronald will be there if you'd like to chat with him. So we have a break now for half an hour. Have a good break, come back refreshed and revitalized, and we will see you all in the next session. Thank you so much, and thank you, Ronald, for a really, really insightful presentation. Very much enjoyed.
Thanks for listening. Bye, everybody.
Can I have a clap of hands? Clap of hands. Virtual. Yes, there we go. Super. Thank you, guys. We will see you back here after lunch break. Take care. Thanks, Ronald.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.